Welcome, Anna. Can you show us what you brought? And tell us what it is.
Let me find the unmute. These are 2 silver spheres. And what they are, you use them in your hand and you kind of move them around. Oh, there we go. Move around the other direction. And just kind of fun. So
we'll hear more about this in a moment. Thank you. And Joanna, welcome. What did you bring?
Hi. Oh, this is a ballerina slipper, a point shoe.
Ooh.
Les pointes, as we say in French. Yeah.
On point. Thank you. Well, first of all, welcome to the 2 of you. And for any of you who are tuning in, welcome to another episode of Not Quite Strangers. My name is Valerie Hope, and I am your host. And this is an opportunity for 2 people who are not quite strangers to meet live on this program. And all of this is in order to build connection, hopefully inspire curiosity, and who knows, we might actually challenge the status quo in some way, shape, or form. So thank you all so much for tuning in. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to notquitestrangers.com so that you get every single episode in your inbox. You don't miss a single one. Or you can also subscribe to the Connect to Joy YouTube channel, and that way you'll be notified anytime a new episode is released. Now, today we have 2 very special guests. I've had the honor of connecting with both of them in the last, Anna, I think we met maybe about a year ago. And Joanna, we met just a few months ago, I think back in December. And what I thought was fascinating about both of you, you both have work, or you do work with spirit. You work with spirit in many ways. Your intuition, the gifts that you have that you bring to the planet are so unique and special. And your work with people, I think, in my case, the experiences I've always had, conversations with the 2 of you always leave me with hope, with make you curious, make me also very excited about what's ahead. And so I thought it would be wonderful to introduce the 2 of you together. But even as importantly, as important as it is what you do, is also how you, in the uniqueness of where you are. Anna, you are here in Dallas, Texas. And Joanna, you are in Geneva, Switzerland. And so I thought that would also create a nice, interesting element, bringing 2 people from similar, I guess, spiritual or intuitive backgrounds together. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Great.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, nice to meet you. I want to go visit you. I want to go where you are.
Can do a house swap.
Yes,
yeah,
and
good.
Here we are. We have to do that. That would be so much fun. But here we are. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about our ice age that we had here. And you're in this beautiful...
We are still in ice age. It's still very cold today.
The ice age.
On, right?
So before we get to your object, I have a question. Why did the 2 of you agree to be on this podcast? I know, Joanna, this is your very first one. Anna, you've been on the podcast with me on Time to Come Alive podcast before, but what is it that had you to say yes to meeting a stranger on a podcast?
How could we say no to you?
I'm going to say the same thing. We love you. So I love you. So of course I'm going to say yes.
That's very, very kind.
And also the idea is really interesting because I knew you're going to put people who go well together, or, that's interesting also to know why you choose us to meet. But yeah, very curious to meet Anna and share things with you.
Cool.
Me too. I do. I'm blessed. I couldn't wait till this morning. I had got up and I was like, oh, we're going to get to go play and I'm going to meet someone new. This is so much fun. So lovely to meet you, Joanna. Yes.
Me too.
Thank you.
Well, the name had something to do with it. No, not really. I
saw that.
Oh, Anna and Joanna would be fun. So you each brought this very unique object. So Anna, I'd just like for you to share, what is it about these spheres that you found so interesting? Because I ask everyone to bring something that really represents your gift or, how you use your gift. So share with us, please.
Well, actually, it's kind of funny because These are those silver balls, and they're spheres. And what I do is I work with spirit anatomy. So we work with the energy, and we teach people about how we plug in. So in a way, we have a sphere around the physical body. So I always let our students know, when we're teaching light language, we have a university, that 30% of your spirit or your soul is in your body. The other 70% is out here. So the sphere actually represents us as light beings. It represents the energy that sustains us here in the 3D world. So that's why I chose these.
Got that. Oh, I didn't realize that 30% was part of who we are, and then 70% was actually outside of us. And I also have some spheres.
Oh,
I found mine. I was like, well, I'm going to show her, but mine are much larger. I don't know if there's a significance there, but yes, they're like you massage your hands or you get some coordination practice. But
yes,
I wanted to share that. Thank you for inspiring me. Now I'm actually going to use them because they've been just sitting on a shelf without being looked at for a long time. So thank you. And Joana, you brought some point shoes. So tell us about those.
Yeah, so those are not mine, actually. Because my first passion was ballet, and not ballet, I could say dance in general, but I did a lot of ballet. And those are my daughters. So, because I throw mine away. But so she said, Mommy, I share with you for today. Ballet was my first passion. So when you say bring an object that you really like, I was like, oh, the first idea came, it was this one. And I was like, this doesn't mean too much regarding energy and spirits. But then I started thinking deeper, and I think actually it's really has a same link, because when you do ballet or when you dance, you have to express emotions, but you also have to know your body. You also have to be aware of your feelings, of the energy of the others, because you dance together. And so you cannot just be in your world and do without thinking about the others. And you have to really know yourself, really respect your body, really respect your needings, and you have discipline. And there is an inner work which is huge. And people don't really realize that when they see a dancer or when they go to a show. They just think, oh, this is nice. But the inner work is really, really important for a ballet, for a dancer in general. And I realized that my work with the spiritual world requests the same inner work. I have to work a lot. I also need discipline. And I need to be aware of my needs, of my body, about the others. So for me, it's actually not exactly the same path, but not that different.
That's interesting. The two of you both mentioned this whole idea of how energy affects others, even in dance, right? That you don't crash into other people. Whereas we're walking around, really, maybe some of us walk rhythmically to the grocery store. I don't know.
I do. When I have my music, I just
so what kind of inner work, first of all, because people are meeting you for the first time. So this idea of working with spirit or working with energy might be foreign for some people. What exactly does that mean in your world? Anna, you want to start us off?
Sure. Okay. So again, I teach a workshop, Light Language 101. And so the reason we call it light language is because we are beings of light. We are energy beings. And even if you break everything down to the atoms and you break it down to just who we are, it's incredible. And our essence that comes in that we're talking about, that's part of our aura, part of our energy, is interchanging with the physical body. And it's keeping this body alive, and it's interacting with people. So we have this language, just like you were saying, Joanna, which I thought was beautiful in the dance, that it's not just a verbal language, although verbal language is part of it, but it is a resonance of energy and how we're picking up other people's signals and what we're seeing, communicating on the day-to-day basis. And even internet, as you guys know, as energy workers, we're still exchanging energy, and we're still in each other's energy just by thinking of each other. So that's kind of how I tie everything in.
Nice. And so when you think about your work, Joana, and you obviously already alluded to some of the things that you do, what does that mean for you?
Energy is so it's so delicate because it can change very quickly. When you wake up, maybe you are in a state of mood, maybe you are a bit tired or already are still in your dreams because you had a lovely dream. So you are in that kind atmosphere and you go out and your husband just says, we are late, just hurry up. And then you're like, whoa, and your mind changed so quickly. And it's not, it could even not talk to you, just pass by very quickly in a rush. And as you are not in the same energy field that he is, you would feel like a little bit maybe disturbed inside. And then maybe you even go upset and you're like, why I'm now upset? Maybe just because he was not in the same rhythm than you are. His energy field was not in the same level. So energy, even if we don't see it, and sometimes we are so unconscious of it, but it really has an impact on us. So I found this work so magical because when we can, and I can connect with your energy and feel how you are feeling and help you getting up. Or if I'm in a bad mood, maybe I can, if you are not feeling good either, I will go lower. So if I'm conscious of all that exchange that we have with human beings that I don't see, but I'm aware of it, then I can pay attention and change things for better, or just let it go, because sometimes you don't want to change, and sometimes you just feel unhappy and you just want to be unhappy. So I just find so interesting to make us feel aware and make everyone aware of that energy, and we all are aware of it, I think.
Yeah. And I noticed you reacted to what she just said. What was going through your mind?
I love it. Joanne, you can come teach my light language 101, because that's what we're really trying to help people be conscious. I always have, when I work with or I do talks, I'll have people raise their arms and then just kind of go around. What's interesting, if we're seated and there's a bunch of people, their arms are overlapping. So our auras are really overlapping, and all of that is happening. Conversations on this etheric level with the energy senses. So every 5 of the physical senses is matched with an etheric sense. So we use the third eye, we hear interdimensionally. So, and multidimensional. So what's interesting is we're constantly exchanging this information. So I think what you're doing and what I'm doing is we're helping raise that awareness and teaching people, okay, we're constantly, and I want to bring up empaths. Empaths are kind of interesting because every human being's an empath. We were born that way, and there seems to, and it's starting to change. I noticed a couple of years ago, it's like, no, only certain people were very special and they're empaths. But now we're starting to realize that all of us are empaths. And if we're walking around in our fields like this, and we're bumping up against people and we're picking up others' energies, it's more about consciousness of how do we manage that? And our just like you were saying, your husband, how we shift, because it's really about us. It's not somebody else. If somebody's picking up eggs and I'm in the grocery store and they're having a bad day and I pick up because I plug into their energy, it's not that they're throwing their energy at me or trying to hurt me. It's me, how I pick it up. So I need to learn how to master myself. So to stay.
Yeah. There's, I don't know if you've heard of the neuroscientist. Her name is Jill Bolte Taylor. Does that name sound familiar? She wrote a book called A Stroke of Insight. Here, I'll show it. Not because I'm advertising your book, but My Stroke of Insight, Jill Bolte Taylor. And what happened is she actually suffered a stroke. And her book, and she has a really popular TED Talk as well. talks about the experience of having lost portion of the left hemisphere of her brain went offline, basically. And so she was very present and very aware of the energies and the energy that surrounded her. And one of the things I remember she said that really stuck with me, and I believe it was an interview that I saw, is when she was in the hospital, the doctors that would come in, or the nursing staff that would come in to treat her, she realized the energy that they projected about how they were going to treat her, right? Or how they were going to engage with her. If they were coming in, just very matter of fact, to just check whatever stats and look at her levels, or if they were coming in with a level of concern and care. And so she basically said, we all need to be responsible for the energy we bring into a room, right? Exactly. And that I thought was so interesting.
That's exactly what I liked about what you said, Anna. It's about us. It's not about others, because sometimes we want to make others responsible for our way of feeling. Like, I'm too sensitive, I cannot take the bus because I'm too sensitive. I would say, no, be careful. You have to become less sensitive then, but you have to be able to live in our world of human beings. And you just need to be aware of your responsibility. And as you said, when you go into a room, just go with the right mindset, because others are not responsible for your problems, actually.
What? No, what are you talking about? So maybe
this is all on the other people, right? No, this is all on you. No, it's not us. Yes, totally. It's a total flip the switch and understanding how to master ourselves.
Yeah.
And so,
that's be responsible. I got to admit, I was talking to my brother about this yesterday. I sometimes feel, I don't think it's an obligation. Maybe it's just the way I'm wired a bit, but I always feel that I'm responsible for lifting the energy. And so I had a random conversation with some customer service representative over the phone, and the voice was actually quite flat. Hello, thank you for calling. How can I assist you? And I was like,
great, I'm excited.
Hey, you doing okay? I will say that every once in a while. She wake it up. I'm like, are you okay? Yes, ma'am. How can I help you? Oh, okay. So we got to it. And as the conversation went on, and actually had to be on the phone with him quite a while, I would find ways to just like, hey, so hope your day's going well. Or I would make some sort of comment about myself or the challenge I was having. I'm like, I hope I'm not the most challenging customer you've had today. And I felt so compelled to raise the energy in that interaction. And I don't like, but to your point, it was really more about me. So in those situations, what would you advise? Because I clearly have an impact on other people, and other people have an impact on me, but I was actually trying to impact him. So what do you guys think about that?
How did you feel at the end of the conversation? Were you tired?
No, actually, he actually dialed it up. And so we had a nice little laugh, and I was just like, yes.
Yeah, so that's great. That's just perfect.
Yes.
Maybe you are a kind of angel who comes and has to increase the energy.
Fluff your energy, fluffing your aura.
The booster.
We actually have one of the YouTubes that we did. At the end of the YouTube, we talk about empaths and we just, it's kind of this conversation. But at the end, we say, okay, 2 people walk in a room, 1 positive and 1 negative. Which one's stronger?
Negative.
It's whoever is in charge of themselves. So if the negative one's stronger, the other one will match the energy or leave, or if the positive is stronger, the other one, if they come in negative, will match or they'll leave. So it's really, again, it goes back to us.
Wow.
That's a good question. I love that.
It is a very good question. Joanna, what do you think about that? How would you have answered that?
Yeah, you said it's perfect. Exactly that. I think it's always about us. It's always about us, because whatever
just one second,
out,
Joanna, you keep hitting your microphone. So
oh, sorry.
That might be. So, okay, use your hands.
Yeah.
I just don't want the audience to.
I'm half Portuguese, so I'm Mediterranean. I move with my hands.
Express yourself.
But
yes.
You know what? I can take this off because now I'm alone. So Is that better?
That works. That works too.
No.
Yes, you're free to move.
So the thing is, whatever goes outside from us will come back. So it's really important to have that idea that, okay, I have to be my master. I have to keep my energy strong. I have to know where I want to put my intention. I think the intention of the day is so important because it will help you to keep that good energy during the entire day. I have an intention in the morning. I put it. I say, okay, today. I know I'm a bit moody, so today I will make an effort to just be calm. And just stay with that energy and with that feeling and that idea of being calm. And I think that helps a lot. The intention you put will help you to be the master of yourself. And meditation. I don't know if you meditate, Anna, but I think it's like the most important.
And I don't meditate. I do, what is it? We call it twilighting. So twilighting, it's kind of a meditation. So twilighting, just before you go to bed, and you described it earlier, beautifully described it. It's when you have one foot in the spirit world, the dream world, and one foot in the physical world. So you're kind of that groggy, your eyes are still closed, but you kind of know what's going on. It's that theta, it's theta alpha. And so you're going in, but that's, if you can hold that. So when I practiced it, when I was learning how to twilight, I would hold it and I'd fall asleep instantly. 30 seconds, hit the pillow, fall asleep. And I practiced it for years. Now I hold it 3 or 4 hours. And that's when I do a lot of communication with the other side, when I'm working with the beings of light, when I'm going into workshops and classes on the other side, creating. And then I come out of it and I'm ready to go. So
twilighting. Interesting. All right. I'm going to change directions a little bit because you guys are using concepts and language that some people are not connected to. And I'm curious, at what point in your life did you realize that this part of you needed to be expressed, or did you find yourself noticing that you were perhaps thinking or experiencing life differently than maybe people around you?
When it's time.
Yes. Well, I actually I wrote a book about this. So my book, A Journey into the Sacred Heart, I grew up with a father who was very aware and he was very spiritual and he was an artist. And so he taught me the energy, what we were just talking about, to express that. And on a ranch, working with animals, you need to have, it's kind of a survival technique, basically, because if you end up in a bullpen, you don't want to be afraid or you don't want to run. You have to hold your space because that bull will charge you. So there's a matter of respect. So he taught snakes that we had. And some of these stories are in my first book. When I was 13, I decided I wanted to be normal like everybody else. So I left all of what he was teaching me and I went into the church and I tried to do all my stuff in the church, became staff member. And it was there in 2007 when I had a visitation of these light beings that came in. I woke up one morning, 2007. I'm on staff. I made jewelry, so I made, designs and stuff. And I'm a mom, housewife. And I wake up one morning in 2007, and there's these 2 big, huge, tall, beautiful light beings. And I open my eyes and I look, and I'm wide awake. And they're just standing there. So I close my eyes and I look back up and they're just standing there. They didn't go away. They're as bright as the sun. You just kind of see the silhouette. So very quickly, I said, do you want anything? And telepathically, they said, Anna, this is not what it's about. I heard it very clearly. And I said, what do you mean? And all of a sudden, flashes of my life in the church, flashes because I was, organizing parties and doing things like that for the church. And then they showed me creating jewelry and they said, this is not what it's about. They showed me cleaning a house. I'm not the greatest house cleaner. So I was happy about that. And then I heard a voice behind me and said, Anna, and I couldn't see it. And he said, I need to show you what this is about. And I said, what? I said, I'm not going with you. Come with me. Let me show you. And I said, I'm not going to go with you. And very quickly, the light being said, she's not ready. And the spirit being behind me said, get her ready. And within that year, everything fell apart. And I call it like falling down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland. So everything crashed. I ended up leaving the church and going back and learning about energy. I ended up, but before, I stopped making jewelry and I started stepping back into what my father had taught me. So to answer your question, it was around 2009 when all of this happened. And I call that the Great Awakening. And from there, emerging with these two light beings that have been my teachers. And it's been an amazing journey. So, yeah.
But Anna, just real quick, one of the things that I heard, so you were from birth, it looks like your dad was actually preparing you, right, to do this type of work.
Yes.
What was that like as a child compared to other children?
Well, I had some interaction with children and friends, but I spent a lot of time with my father on the ranch, and I spent a lot of time in Indian teepees. It was funny because my mother, and he's my adopted parents. So my father, he would be in the Indian teepee and my mother would be in the house. And he said, your mom lives in the house. We live in the teepee. But yes. So one of the stories I tell is the rock beings. He really taught me to understand that everything's alive. Everything's conscious. And I didn't understand that until I was later. I thought, oh, he's kind of crazy. It was when I had the knitting experience where I astral projected outside and I'm somewhere up here in the soul star area and I'm expanding consciousness and connecting with different and realizing and seeing everything and realizing that my brain is down there in the physical body, but I'm still me and I can still think, I can still communicate with these light beings. And at one point, now I tell the story a lot, but at one point at the very end, as spirit's telling me, and we're expanding on different, and it's not going up like you think. We don't go up. It's just an expansion of consciousness. And as I expanded, the being said, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I would just like, I'm nosy. I just want to hear everybody's thoughts and hear everybody in Arlington, Texas at the time. And in a second, I was hearing thousands of people, what they were thinking, their conversations, all at one time. And I was like, this is amazing. This is wild. And I can understand them like we're talking one-on-one. So I understood every human being in that, in that part. And then all of a sudden I went, this is how God hears our prayers. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm not God. Doubt on that vibrational frequency dropped me back into my body. I lost it. So yeah, we teach the tone scale. So my father used to draw this. He called it the tone scale. He'd sit in the pasture and he'd draw a cross. And he said, what is the highest level of emotion? It's unconditional love. To love without exception. And what is the lowest emotion? It's fear. So he'd write fear. And then the cross between is the heart line. So he was teaching me how to measure. And it goes back to what you were saying, Joanna, about our emotions and how so we use this as a tool in our university to gauge so people know where they are. And when you're down here, you're going to attract again, it goes back to that joke. Two people walk in the room, but it shows us how to gauge and where we are on this heart line and mastering it. And when you're in unconditional love, really quickly, there are 4 levels of consciousness. There's individual, recognizing ourselves. There's group consciousness. We're all participating in these group consciousness. There's the collective that defines the world and says, okay, we all agree this is a cup. So we say this is a cup. If the collective as one decides this is a monkey, it turns into a monkey. It's just a matter of how we create as a whole. And then there's oneness, which people call God energy, that they're called spirit or great spirit, or however you want to define it, that holds everything together. And one of his stories that he always said, we are in the mind of the creator. We are in the creator's dream. And it wasn't till I had that experience of understanding and many more that I started to understand that we're always connected to these 4 levels of consciousness. So,
what were the 4 again?
Yes, individual, group, collective, and oneness.
Oh, what was the second one?
Group.
Group. Okay. Individual, group, collective, and oneness.
And I actually have a YouTube on it. It's called The 4 Levels of Consciousness. So if you go to our YouTube station, it defines it and talks about it. But yeah,
I'll put it in the show notes so that people are interested in more information. Joanna, I noticed you were reacting to some of the stuff that Anna said. So what is going through your mind right now?
Interesting. Thank you for sharing, Anna.
You know what? I do think it sounds better with your headset on. I'm sorry. I know, but keep your...
I found it so interesting because... Okay, you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love that cross idea. It's a really good one to know where you said. And actually you said we are all, we are all part of it. And that and you know why I said yes to the podcast?
Why?
Because we are all linked to everyone actually, and we don't realize it. And even if it's something I know when I studied and I read and I can see when I meet people, it's still something sometimes I feel difficult to understand. It's not that easy to understand. Is understanding it's something. Yeah, we can understand that we are all linked and we are all part of the same thing, but knowing it deeply in our heart is not that easy. And I always like to bring it to life to normal. Sorry, I'm stopped moving. Just realized I just bumped the micro. In our daily life, it's not always easy to keep that in mind, because sometimes, you go to the grocery shop and someone is rude to you, and the first reaction is like, oh, just be nice. And then you're like, oh, but we are all together.
We're all connected.
We are all connected. So it's not always easy. And sometimes you look at someone and you're like, how can we be connected? And yeah, we everything seems so different, and their opinions, and we don't, I'm sure maybe many Americans didn't want to be connected to Trump these last years. So it's not easy. And we are actually connected to all of us. And I think that's a reality that it's important to keep in mind, even if we don't always understand it with the heart. If the mind already has it, maybe it will help then, the emotions and dealing with it. And so I found that really interesting, the way your father teaches you so much things and so young.
That we're all connected. And Joanna, as you were experiencing all of these this awareness, what was that like for you growing up? And at what point did you realize that was important to you?
My great-grandmother was a medium, but this was far, in Porto, in Portugal, so not really accepted at all. So very secret in the family. Nobody talked about it. It was like my mom learned about someone in the family, but very secretive. Don't talk about it. And when I asked my grandmother, she said, "Oh, she was crazy, poor little girl." It was not something accepted at all. But I heard some stories when I was a kid, and when my father's mom died, this is from my mother's side. So from when my grandmother from my father's side passed away, I didn't know she passed away. My mom didn't tell me. I was asleep, and I woke up. When you are in bed and you feel that you have to open your eyes, I don't know if that happens to you, but sometimes you're just like awake suddenly. Yeah. And she was there in front of me, standing, smiling. And I was like, close the eyes again, open, I know what's happening. And yeah, she was there with a big smile. And my grandmother didn't have one leg. She had an amputation, but she was standing with her 2 legs. And I just look, oh my God. And I just jump off my bed and run into my parents' bed. And I told them the story. And as my mom was aware of energy and spiritual world, I was very lucky, because probably some kids, they would have it's just a bad dream, close your eyes and sleep. But no, she talked with me. She explained me that, yeah, she passed away, and maybe she was just coming to say goodbye. And she asked me questions. How was she looking? So I felt listen and trust. And I never thought it was my imagination. I really felt it in my body and the energy. And then she confirmed as an adult. So it was fine for me. But nothing else happened, never. And, you know, as I said, I loved ballet. So I wanted to be a ballerina. I didn't want to work with energy. So I went to my ballet road, put everything about energy in another place of my mind, and started living. Then I married, had children, and one day I was so unhappy in my life that I said to my husband, you know what, I need to change life, or I will just never. Maybe one day I will just be unable to get up. I was really feeling that I was not doing what I had to. I was looking myself in the mirror in the morning, and I was feeling unhappy about the human being I was turning to, about what I was achieving. I didn't know where I wanted to go exactly, but I knew I had to change. And I was already doing meditation since 3 years. And working with energy, because I was really lucky to meet a fantastic medium, Almina Amani, and she taught me a lot. So it was like obvious. At one point, it was like obvious, I need to change path and I will give it a try. So it was challenging, but then I knew I was in the right way.
Yeah, I think it's so fascinating, the two of you. I know I've shared this with you. I met Anna through some mutual friends who host a wellness expo. And when she and I met, I got to be honest, I think I've shared this with you, so no shade here, but I was just like, what is she talking about? Who's this lady? What is she talking about? Because you had such vivid, just like you're doing now, right? Such vivid recollection and such vivid examples of these different concepts, these very spiritual concepts. But there was something that was so compelling that drew me to actually, we talked for like 4 hours. we literally left the little gathering. Everybody was hanging out in the kitchen, and we gathered I think we went to the living room, and we just started talking. And I'm like, who's this woman? Like, what is this? But I think to your earlier point, Joanna, I do feel connection with a lot of people. Like, I do feel like there's this very human, because I don't have the language for it. I'm working on that, but I do feel very much connected to humanity and to people. And there's this, I'm always compelled to, like I said, not only maybe impact the level of energy in the room, perhaps, or sometimes it's just having these types of conversations, connecting other people. Like, I feel it shows up a lot, and it's not quite been as obvious, as evident as the two of you have. I've not had any visitation, for example. That's just not part of my experience, but I do feel very connected to spirit guides. Like, I do feel like there's messages that I feel that I have sense of, there's some sensation, body sensations that will come upon me, and I'm just like, oh, that's what this is. So I'm struggling here a little bit, because I don't know if the audience who listens is going to get everything. But I'm going to let that go, because I don't know what people are going to get and what they don't. But I'm just curious. Yeah, go ahead.
We are all so different.
Yeah.
We don't need to, and we need to live what we need to live, actually. I don't know if it doesn't make sense, but I needed at 9 years old, no, I was not 9, I was 7, to see my grandmother. And maybe that was important to me, because it would help me later on to decide and go to this path. But maybe Anna needed to have a father teaching her since she was a child. And we all live the experience we need to, and we don't need all to see. I think we actually don't even all need to be conscious of that energy. If we live our lives being conscious of what we are doing, with the good intention of looking for what's good for me. I think we become, we all need to find harmony. Mm-hmm. And harmony is not the same for you or for me. The sound is different. So you just need to find the harmony, the sound which matches with you. And if that is not believing in energy, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine if you are in harmony with yourself. I think then if we start creating issues and diseases, if we suddenly are not tuned with ourselves. That's when the problem comes. So if we are tuned with ourselves, you don't need to believe in energy or to be interested in it at all. It's just, you will still have a good life.
Tune into yourself and align. Yes, Anna.
That's a really good point, because one of the things that we're teaching in the university, this isn't a religion. This is a practice, and this is just who we are. This is just part of our anatomy. And so I think people need to know it's just about being conscious and aware. And and that was, just to go back a little bit, I just wanted to tell a quick little story. I tell stories, but I'm a storyteller. But when I went to the church, I didn't want to hear what my father, I separated it. And I really just thought that God was in the church. Again, that's what I wanted to believe, that you could only find God in the church. And so one day our pastor was telling us, if you believe that you're God, that he would smite, God would smite you down. So one day these golden beings come in, and I said, okay, my dad's in the past has says we're God, and the pastor tells me that we're not God. And if we say that, we'll get smited down. And Spirit said, oh, that's easy. So they pull me out of my head. They take me to the beach. So I'm standing on the beach with these golden beings on both sides. And I'm looking out at the ocean. I'm like, well, do you want me to get in the ocean? Or do you want me to build a sandcastle? Why are we here? Why are you, what is the answer? And this big long hand comes down and points, and it says, do you see the grain of sand on the beach? And I said, yes. And they said, you are the grain of sand, and God is the beach. Therefore, you are God, and God is you. And it goes back to the oneness. We can't separate ourselves because we just are. And we try to fit ourselves in these little little cups or containers and say, this is what it's about. And what we need to do is shatter those containers and recognize that it's everything. And there's the only way that separates us is a shift of consciousness, of recognizing. And I think the 4 levels of consciousness really tell you, because you can't be separated from all 4. You're going to have the experience because oneness holds it all together, and the collective helps to define it, and groups we're participating in, and we are one within ourselves. So it's interacting and just recognizing that here we are. And aren't we amazing?
We are. I like that, grain of sand, and God is the beach. So the question that just popped in my mind is, when you have conversations with other people, right? I get that not everyone has to think or believe or express in the same way. How do you listen to people who have diametrically, they have a view that diametrically opposes yours, or an awareness that is completely counter to what you know? How do you guys process those conversations? Joana?
I have to work a lot on it. I have to admit. I had to work on myself a lot, because sometimes, I usually want people to come with me on my point of view. It's like, I found something so exciting. Please believe what the same thing I do. So that was a huge work for me. And in a way, I think I'm lucky, because I have a lot of friends who are totally skeptic. So they make me work on that even more.
Oh, like skeptical?
Yeah, skeptical. Yeah. They don't believe at all.
I'm like, that could be septic. Like toxic. No, skeptical is nicer.
They are not toxic. They are much but skeptical.
Yes.
So they don't really believe in the work I do. And I also do, I transmit message, like a medium, I transmit message from the deceased people. So they don't believe in that at all. For them, when people are dead, they are dead, say they cannot come and they cannot talk and they cannot transmit emotions, nothing. So the conversations can be quite funny, because I try to show a little bit of my point of view, of my world, but I cannot prove them. It's something you cannot really prove. You cannot say to someone, see, 2 + 2 is 4. It's not possible. It's something you need to feel, you need to experience. So there is no point in trying to fight that. I just share my views, and I think with the pandemic, a lot of people open up. That helped a lot. And I think people believe in energy. Maybe the energy, I think everyone believes, because they know, when you put your hands together, very close first, and then you try to build energy, just focus on that and start opening them, and you will feel that there is something in the middle. It's not empty. You feel it's not empty. There is something. So it's energy. And I think people, that they can feel it and understand it. The way it works, why it's there, that we can change it. Maybe that they don't want to go that far. But energy, I think everyone believes. So sometimes I just don't say anything. I just listen to them. And if they are curious, they will maybe ask more.
They'll ask. You just transmit an energy that allows them to just be with whatever you're saying and whatever they're saying. Got that.
Exactly.
Anna, what about for you?
Well, I go back to my teachings of my dad. So as an artist, and I thought he was just keeping me busy, but let's pretend like this is an apple. So he'd put the apple on the table. He gave me a sketch pad and he'd say, okay, sketch the apple. And then when I finished, he'd turn it upside down and I'd sketch the top. Then he'd turn it on another direction. I'd sketch that. And he just kept turning it. Finally, I'd grab it and bite it. And then I had to sketch that. So, it's like, oh. But what I learned from that is to look at other perspectives and that's what an artist does. They go in and they see everything from the artist's view. And when I have someone in a different perspective, I kind of pull my energy back and I look at from their perspective and I view it from what they're going, how they're processing. And then if the conversation, like you said, Joanna, if there's some point where I can share my point of view, I'll share from their perspective. And so one of the things we talk about, we're in the age of knowing. We've been in the age of belief and we believe, but when you believe, if I ask one of you, what did you have for breakfast? And Valerie, what did you have for breakfast?
A green smoothie.
Do you believe that you had a green smoothie? Or do you know you had a green smoothie?
No, I had a green
smoothie. Exactly.
I make a green smoothie.
The other word, right? And I know you make good green smoothies. The other word is faith. Faith. Mm-hmm. Do you have faith that you made a green smoothie? So there's still... So there's a knowing, and we are now in the knowing. And Joanne, you touched upon it. When you have an experience, it's not that you had faith that you had an experience. It's not that you believe you had an experience. You know the experience happened to you. I know those golden beings are there, and nobody can take that away from you. And when you know that you know that you know, then you go move on, right? You move on and you expand and you go, okay, this is what I've learned from this experience. What else do you have? And I think that's what we're here in 3D, is just to expand and help. And when you share that knowledge with someone and they have an experience, and that's why we created the university, we want to share and to let people have these beautiful experiences. And I just did a 2-day shamanic workshop this weekend, and people are journeying and working with elements and getting to know it. And we don't use elements, like a tool. We actually learn about the energy. Same thing, like Reiki, and understanding how that energy, like you were demonstrating in Qigong, we understand how the energy works. So now it's a partnership with these beautiful things that are around us.
I think this just creates even more questions. Like, I think we need to have a part 2 of this podcast because I want to know more. But I want to zoom out a little bit from this experience, and I have a couple 2-part question. One, Joanna, you kind of teed up a little bit earlier. When I have invited the 2 of you to be on the podcast, what images, sensations, knowing came to you about it, if any?
For me, it was really exciting because as it was the first podcast, I was like, oh, this is a new experience and I love new experience. First thing. And then, as I said earlier about the link, that we are all linked, we all have something in common. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting to see why the 3 of us are meeting today at this time. And I already know that it's going to create something positive for our lives, and to remember anyway.
Okay. And Anna, what about for you? What did you know before you came into this moment?
Connection. I just love the connections. I love the connections, the conversations, telling the stories, getting to know each other, and sharing. So that's what I felt.
So before even coming in, you knew that was the experience that you were going to have?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow. I kind of knew too, but I just like to check. I just want to check. And then I'm curious about, now that we've been in this conversation for an hour, or as we're wrapping up, what has been the experience? Like, if you contrast it to what you thought going in before coming into this, during this time, how has that compared?
I didn't have much expectations. I was wanting to know what's going to be. I'm just so happy I met Anna, because so many things you said made so much sense to me, and I totally agree with your point of view. So that was fantastic. Thank you, Valerie, to putting us together, because I think it was a good match. I'm just worried because you said it was confusing. Now you had more questions, so I hope.
No.
We didn't put the energy more.
No, not confusing questions, but more like, I think there's so many ways that we could take this conversation. And, Anna knows every once in a while I'll pick up the phone and go, okay, Anna, what do you think about this? So those kind of conversations, like, okay, well, do you guys have a little extra time? Because I do have a couple. I could just ask you. And if we decide to engage, we do. And both of you in some way, shape, or form alluded to this, but the pandemic and where things are right now in the state of the world, one of the conversations that I like to think of in more spiritual terms is kind of what everybody's doing right now, and what you guys see as it relates to this, collective energy about people now being vaccinated, or people staying at home, or people being impacted in their work. And like, this entire global pandemic experience today for you is what? What is this experience for you today?
Yeah. So I'll go. I call it shifting of the ages. So we're coming out of a whole age of power and control, which is all a part of that's 2000, 2,600 years. Every 2,600 years, we shift into a new age. In 2012, when the Aztecs finished their calendar and everybody thought the world was going to end, well, it really did. It ended in the vibration of the whole universe rose. And what happened is we went from the solar plexus chakra of power and control into the heart energy of the Aquarian age. And the Aquarian age is all about transparency. It's all about lifting each other up. It's exactly these conversations that we're having. And so it's a beautiful energy. And what I see, and I go back to the 4 levels of consciousness, as an individual, we're purging. As a group, we're purging. And what happens is we start to purge these, and everybody's finding, they're like, oh, I didn't know I had this. And so they're doing this, or I'm afraid of this, or this is happening, and so that it looks like chaos. But what's happening is, if we purge, then we can bring these higher frequencies and match this new age that we're coming in, and we're sticking our big toe in. And then as we move forward, it changes the collective consciousness into a more congruent and more balanced. And we start to be more uplifting instead of trying to take control of things. And again, that goes in more union of oneness, which is what it holds everything together. So I look at it as, this is something that we do. And is it going to end like tomorrow? I know we all wish it would, because I'm ready for the golden age and all the stuff to happen. But, when I purge and I do something, it takes a couple of weeks, or it takes whatever, if I'm getting stuff out of my body or working with my energies, it takes time. And then I come in stronger. Because I can fill it up with more light. So that's how I see it.
Yeah, sacred takes time. You cannot do sacred changes so quickly. So we need to accept that changement will take some time.
Yeah. And Joanna, what about for you? Where do you see you or us as a collective now?
I think this was, I agree with what everything you said, Anna. I think it's really a call for changement. People needed to change things and maybe to confront their fears, because it's like all our fears, even those we were not aware of, suddenly came up. I can see with my clients when I do the spiritual guidance and the intuitive psychology meetings, that they feel afraid of things they thought they were not. They realize they think some situations or relationships were okay now, and actually they realize that they still feel sad or anger or emotions. So they are realizing that they didn't change as they wanted to. So people are really confronting their fears, realizing the changes that they want to with the kind of life they want, because maybe they spent more time or less time with the family. Some realize that they loved traveling more than they knew of, or maybe even realize that I don't need to travel. I'm fine home. I have so many things to discover in my own country. This is enough. So I think we are being conscious of what's important in our lives. And maybe that's the biggest shift, is being aware of what we want to create, which kind of intention we want to put in our lives for now. Yeah. Because things changed and they will not come back. The world will not go to what it was. So we cannot just keep waiting. I think people who are just waiting for the doors open, like, okay, everyone is free. That won't happen. So it's like, and more the time passes, because people at the beginning, they thought they could wait and things will change and be normal. And now as time is passing, they are realizing, oh no, this will not change. Mm-hmm. So they really have to look inside. They cannot just wait. And I think that's the most important shift. It's people are realizing they need to do changements in their lives.
Inside. Absolutely. I love that. It's funny. I had a conversation with my 12-year-old niece a couple of days ago. She, so the times that I visited, I used to give her hand massage all the time, just sitting there, and every once in a while she'll ask for one. And I'm just like, I'm too tired, or I'm not in the mood, or I'm trying to take a nap or something. Like, can you give me a hand massage? I'm like, can I do it later? I'm tired or whatever. And it's been a while since she's asked, because there have been moments where I've just said, no, not right now or whatever. So I called her and I asked her literally just flat out, hey, how do you, I've not given you a hand massage in a while, and I've said no the last few times and you haven't asked for any. So how do you feel about that? Does that make you feel bad? Do you feel like I'm rejecting you or something? Like, how does that make you feel? And she's like, well, you're not responsible for my feelings. I am. Like,
yes.
She's 12.
These children, they're amazing.
Wow. Yeah. Who are these children? And this is not specific just to her. The interactions I've had with other young people, and I have other young people in my life. I have 9 nieces and nephews. So in conversations with them, or even other people's children, they're in a different plane of awareness, to your point, Joanna, or consciousness and intention. It's so much more precise, and so they're so much more grounded, it sounds like. Yes. I've completely been blown away by some of the conversations they're able to engage in, and the awareness and the self-awareness they have. It's like, wow, mind blowing.
I love, this is one of my favorite conversations because of topics. Because what happened, and I'm a lot older than both of you, but when I came to the earth, the vibration of the frequency of the universe and the earth was here, and I had to lower my energy to come into the physical plane and become into a body, because 3-dimension is kind of a lower vibration than all those other dimensions that go above. And as the whole universe starts to expand, it starts coming up, and the children that are coming in are not lowering their vibration as much. Therefore, they're remembering more than we are from all of our experiences, from all of our existences. And the question, I think the other thing I want to mention, my sister, I love her. One day she goes, where do all the new souls come from? And I went, well, that's an interesting thought, because I can see one of those where they're cranking out new souls and they're just new souls and they're making it. And it's like, okay, but where are they coming, all these new souls? And Spirit immediately is in my ear to answer her question and said, well, all souls have always existed. New souls, and the way we gauge new and old souls, are how many times we've incarnated in the physical world of 3D experience. But we've always existed. So you imagine all those experiences that these young people are bringing in, that they're remembering because they didn't have to lower their vibration as much. And the energy of the earth and the universe is now starting to support that as we move into from 3D into more of the fourth and fifth dimensional frequencies that are the veil's starting to lift. These kids, like you said, they're amazing. They're just totally amazing. And they're remembering, and they're teaching us. And so, yeah, I'm blown away by them too. I'm just like, oh, I love these. You guys, you get it.
Are your kids like this? Joanna, is your daughter like this?
Yeah, my kids are surprising, but it's always difficult to talk about your own kids because as a mom, you always say they are perfect. They are not perfect, but no, they are really wise. They have another conscience, but I also think the conversations we have at home now are different than our parents had. So It's not just about them; it's also about the shift of mentality, and we are much more open. And see, we are talking together. This was not possible with my parents, and they are not that old. They are only 60. So, but it was not possible. So we opened the world. So our kids, of course, they can understand much more things. They can share. They can learn faster than us. So it's a difficult period, but I think it's also a very interesting one where we can learn so quickly and so much. And that was not that open when we were young. I remember wanting to apply to Alvin Alley in New York, and I had to do by writing. Internet was starting, but there was not everything on the website. And can you see now I could take classes with you, Anna, I'm sure on live, and you could do it with me, and you can go to my YouTube and know me, even if you are in the US and I'm in Switzerland. So that's also very important way to open the mind, to open the heart, because then people are aware of the differences and they may more, they accept differences more. I don't know. I think it's a very interesting period. So our young people are great,
yes,
but they are also living in a different age.
Yeah.
And we are also changing. I love that, because I have more invested in the older age than I do in the new age, and they have less invested. But my mother, and she has more invested. So some of us, as we're all shifting in this consciousness, we are, intermingling. I have to say something that's kind of funny. Zoom. I did. Spirit has asked me to do Zoom for years, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it this, and then it would come by, and I'm like, no, not ready. I'll do it this, and then pandemic happens, and now it's like, okay, everybody has to learn Zoom. You don't have a choice.
Same with me. I was like, oh, I don't want to go Skype and Zoom, but now everyone is into it.
Yes.
Even though I would love to share a real tea with you ladies.
Ooh, what is that tea? Spill the tea, Joanna.
It will be nice to meet in person anyway, even if I'm really happy with the Zoom. But yeah, it's different.
Well, we wouldn't have met, Joanna, right? You and I were connected by a mutual friend, Dominique, who's a friend of mine in Geneva. But this conversation would not have taken place. Not only this one, but even, you and I connecting and you supporting me. What's interesting, I think, about all of this is that we now have an opportunity to challenge ourselves. I think that's really, the intention of me bringing these conversations to light, is that we can step outside of the bubble of people that we typically speak to. now that we have an opportunity to reach out across the globe, right? We have mediums that allow us, not mediums like your great grandmother Joanna, but medium like Zoom. Like we have tools and resources like Zoom that will support us in that. And we do have people who do speak with people in other realms too. I think that's an opportunity to connect if we're finding that our consciousness is drawing us more in that direction. I think the other piece that I'm really satisfied with, or I'm really proud of, is the fact that, I was sharing with Anna before you got here, Joanna. I'm like, I have such amazing people in my life. It's so fantastic. Every single time I do one of these episodes, I'm so grateful for the human beings that exist on this planet. If nothing else, I know we're just a grain of sand. I've spoken to 20 grains of sand. That's it. In the grand scheme of the beach is nothing. It really isn't. But it's like, oh my goodness, it's been so powerful to have these conversations and know that there's, wonderful souls out there. I think to your point, this idea that we're all spiritual beings having a human experience, I think it encapsulates what both of you have shared on this podcast. So any final thoughts or words about this experience for you, or what you're taking from this experience?
Oh, thank you so much, Valerie, because it was really an interesting experience. I'm also full of gratitude for being here and for meeting you and sharing. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Same here. Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, hopefully you guys will continue to connect, and I'll be sure to put any information around how people can connect with you in case they want to further the conversation or join the classes or have, a one-on-one time with you, Joanna. So definitely for those of you who are listening and tuning in today, the conversation does not have to end here, right? Whether you believe it or not, I think Joanna was you that said it, it's not about belief necessarily, or Anna, I think it was you that said, it's not about belief anymore. It's like, you just know. If anything that was said today is something that you're like, yeah, I know that, or that makes sense to me, you want to talk to these ladies. I promise you won't regret it. It will be great. If nothing else, will give you a different opening. Thank you both again so much for joining us. And for those of you who tuned in to this episode, please remember to subscribe on www.notquitestrangers.com. So that way you don't miss this episode or many others straight into your inbox. And then also you can go to the Connect to Joy YouTube channel and get notified there. There'll be more information forthcoming. If you subscribe, we'll have some gatherings to connect you to some of the guests that I've had on the podcast. You have an opportunity to interact beyond this listening, this one-way listening experience or viewing experience. We want to give you access to that. So be sure to subscribe so you get an invitation to our gathering behind the scenes. And ladies, I'll tell you all about that shortly. Thanks everyone for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.